What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I apologize for the radio silence. I was on vacation last week and I didn't get enough time to film my What If Episode 2 video, and then What If Episode 3 came out while we were in Cabo, so I also didn't get to film that one. But I'm back. We're here today with What If Episode 4, and I'll be doing a breakdown in chronological order of certain events and certain things that stood out to me. And then we also have Shang-Chi's coming out tonight. I'm very excited to go see that with my fiance and a couple of friends. So keep an eye out on that video coming out soon. Without further ado, let's just move into the breakdown and then stick around to the end of the video, because I have my top 2 questions revolving certain theories that came out from this episode. So let's get right into it. All right, so let's get right into it. The diverging incident that takes place on this Earth was that Christine, Doctor Strange's love interest, she's the one who ends up dying in the Lamborghini car crash, as opposed to Doctor Strange getting into the accident and then having his hands basically tremble like a mother, so that he cannot perform the neural surgeries and perform any surgeries that he does at the highest level as one of the superior doctors within the whole universe. Outside of this, almost everything took place the same exact manner. The Ancient One ends up getting killed, and then Doctor Strange has to make a bargain with Dormammu. And then the difference that comes in after this is that now Doctor Strange, as the Sorcerer Supreme, wants to use his magical abilities to somehow time travel or teleport his mind back in order to resurrect or save Christine. For number 2, Doctor Strange pulls a Days of Future Past on his own ass and teleports or transports his current consciousness into his younger self in order to try to change the course of events that happened with Christine. He ends up going down the same route, drives behind that trailer, turns on his turn signal, make it look like certain things are going to change, and unfortunately, boom, they end up crashing again. Christine dies, and it's just an infinite loop now. And he is going through these huge montages of going different routes, just trying not to even drive in the first place, not even hanging out with her. Regardless of what he does, Christine dies by the end of the night. During this little montage of him trying to resurrect her or save her life, it reminded me of the events in Infinity War when he was using the Time Stone to project all of the different possibilities to defeat Thanos, and how he was like essentially living through all of them, watching how it would take place, and then rerunning a whole new scenario. That's exactly how that scene looked to me, or how I envisioned it, because he had to not only relive the death of Christine all the time, but then towards the end he just accepted the fate. He sat in the car, he knew there was nothing he could do. And that moves me down into point number 3. So for point number 3, this was actually probably my favorite part of the episode, when the Ancient One comes out and explains to Doctor Strange that Christine's death is what they consider an absolute point in time. It cannot be broken, cannot be fixed, cannot be altered. Regardless of the situation, Christine needed to die that day. It was written in history, written in stone. There's no going about it. And we even saw that every single thing that he tried to do, there was absolutely no way that he could prevent her death. I really like this concept because it almost shows like the power of time. It reminds me of like the lore that the Flash used to, or the Flash in the early seasons would try to depict, that time really is the enemy of us all. After everything is gone, we're all dead, Earth is gone, whatever, time will continue to move forward. Time cannot be defeated, and this just shows that in this case, no matter what whatever Doctor Strange tried to do, time wins, and he chooses, or it chooses, to take Christine's life, and it was just destiny. So, big fan of that part of the episode. I love that theory. And stick around, like I said, because I have a question that revolves around the MCU and how there might be an absolute point within the MCU, and I have that coming up for you guys. Moving down to number 4. Doctor Strange escapes his encounter with the Ancient One, travels back in time, and tries to find the books of Cagliostro, the lost books of Cagliostro, because he is the one who discovered or tried to understand any possible way of breaking the absolute point and using whatever means of magic it took to get to that. So Doctor Strange wants to learn this so that he can, conjure up all of his strength and magical ability to break this point in time and continue to live on his days with Christine. So we see he goes there, he reads the book, it says it's not possible, cannot be done. The very next page says if it were to be done, you need to acquire an immense amount of magical energy and mystical energy. And he's like, okay, well then let me just go ahead and start absorbing all the mystical energy from all these other mystical magical beings from within the multiverse, within the universe, whatever. So we see a montage of him absorbing the gnome, the raven that looks like the Raven from Teen Titans, and a bunch of other like mystical animals, creatures. I'm not sure if all of those were like comic book accurate or comic book characters. I think just some of them could have been like characters within history, throughout history or throughout cultures and different creatures. Like for example, like in like Mexican lore, there's like a creature called the Chupacabra. Let's say Marvel threw in a Chupacabra and he absorbed that shit, and now he's getting some more mystical energy or whatever, or like the Boogeyman, or a bunch of characters like that. But he absorbs all of them, and then he calls back what looked to be Shumagorath, the big ass tentacle monster that we saw Peggy Carter try to push back in episode 1 when she pushed it into the Tesseract, or the Tesseract Void, I guess we can call it. And that supposedly is the biggest mythical creature with the most amount of magical power. And we see at the end he finally has enough power to destroy it, cut the tentacles off, and then engulf some of that energy. Alright, so for this next part, we got a quick little glimpse during the montage where Doctor Strange is absorbing all this energy and he can sense the Watcher. So as of right now, throughout episode 1, 2, and 3, this is the first scene, maybe the only scene within the entire series, where somebody can recognize the Watcher being the Watcher's presence. I thought that was a cool little Easter egg. With that, let's keep it moving though. We get it over into the next scene, and we see the Ancient One. She is explaining to good Doctor Strange. We'll say we got a good one and an evil one. The good Doctor Strange, Ancient One, comes out of a astral projection explaining that an evil Doctor Strange is causing a rupture in reality so bad to the point that if he continues on with his mission to resurrect Christine, reality as we know it will not exist. The resurrection of Christine will completely disrupt the flow of time, and the universe itself will be engulfed in a black hole. And she tells Doctor Strange that he has to go and try to stop him or convince him to change and blah blah blah, whatever. So then we get the final fight scene. The fight scene between good Doctor Strange, evil Doctor Strange, they go at it. Right out of the gate, I knew good Doctor Strange was not going to stand a chance against evil Doctor Strange, because he had just been absorbing all that mystical energy for what seemed to be like centuries, according to the guy who was working at the library. So how are you going to have regular Doctor Strange versus somebody who's just been spending a century absorbing energy in order to basically destroy time? And at the end of the fight, good Doctor Strange ends up getting absorbed into the evil Doctor Strange, which gives him enough mystical, magical energy to perform the time bomb, is what I'll call it, because he essentially destroyed all of time. He resurrects Christine, and he looks like an absolute monster. And Christine is laying there in complete fear. Reality is starting to shadow around him, and he realizes that although he saved her, there's nothing left. The world is literally crumbling below him or around him, and the Watcher is standing right there looking at him, and Doctor Strange is begging for him to take it all back, take it away, and the Watcher just explains, you know what, I'm sorry, but you did this to yourself, and that is the end of your reality. And we see it all crumble in and becomes like a little black hole, a void of time. There's nothing left, and that's what happens. So basically that was the entire episode. Honestly, it was not my favorite episode. I thought some of the scenarios were a little too complex for like a casual viewer. I understood the majority of it, except I can see how somebody as a casual viewer, especially like a little kid watching this, can not seem to grasp the entirety of the story and what's going on, especially on like a multiversal level. But I liked it in the sense that it's showing us how certain beings within the MCU, like Doctor Strange, or let's say somebody powerful like Scarlet Witch, or, well, honestly, those are probably the only two I can think of off the top of my head, how they're powerful enough to basically shatter reality to the point that reality is no longer sustainable on its own, and it'll collapse within itself. I don't know if we're going to have any more episodes within the What If series that are going to also collapse the universe like that, but this was a good example of how something like that could occur, especially like if we look at the events of Avengers Endgame. If something went completely awry, or if Thanos were able to snap again on the Endgame battlefield, then it's kind of showing that Thanos snapping is an absolute point, and there's nothing they can do about it. But that's all I had for the breakdown. Let's get into my top 2 questions of the week based on this episode. So question number 1, something small, but it had to do with Doctor Strange realizing the presence of the Watcher. It is, do you guys think that anybody in the MCU knows of the Watchers or knows of their presence? And if so, who do you think they might be? So let me know what you guys think for that. And question number 2, this is actually a question I thought of as watching the episode for the second time. Question is, do you guys believe there is an absolute point within the MCU? And I say this as in, is there any situation with MCU, whether past or maybe in the future, that you guys can think of that could be considered an absolute point, and it must happen in order for the universe to progress? So one, we already have one absolute point, and that was Iron Man having to sacrifice himself in order to save everybody and destroy Thanos and his armada in Avengers Endgame. That was an absolute point. That was the only possible situation to progress the storyline from that point on. And 2, another absolute point that I was thinking of is, do you guys think Mysterio leaking Spider-Man's identity at the end of Far From Home is considered an absolute point? And I say this because in the trailer that we just got from Spider-Man No Way Home, which I also didn't get to do a breakdown because I was in Mexico, but damn, that shit was amazing. Back to the point. In the trailer, when Doctor Strange is performing the ritual to try to erase everybody's mind of the knowledge of who Spider-Man is and his identity, it seems like the reality is starting to collapse within itself. So I was wondering, how sick would it be if Spider-Man's getting outed for his identity is actually an absolute point, and at some point in history it had to happen, and this is the ramifications of Doctor Strange and Spider-Man trying to negate that. So let me know what you guys think. Overall, like I said, it wasn't my favorite episode, but it was decent. I still give it like a solid 7 out of 10. But let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Let me know if you guys had any questions or what your answers are to my theories of the week. Like I said, I have a Shang-Chi video coming out pretty soon. I'm going to go watch the movie tonight, and then I'll do a review that'll either drop Friday or Saturday. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you can best support the channel by leaving a like, sharing, and subscribing. And if you want to personally chat with me, you can follow me at Mr. Jalapeno 13 on Instagram. hit me up with any questions you guys have, or if you guys just want to chat. Thank you guys. That's all I have for today. Take care.